welcome YouTube world to another episode, Broad Street and Beyond. We, of course, are broadcasting live from the Fairview Golf Course Studios, serving up great golf here in Central PA for well over 60 years. It is that time of the year. Head on over fairview.distinctgolf.com. Yep, there's JT, my co-host. How you making out here, JT, today?
Feeling pretty good. I guess I should have told you this before we went on the air. Sparkling Pond Water has also hopped on board as a new sponsor for Broad Street and Beyond. If you're looking for the best sparkling pond water in the business, Froggy Valley 100.1 Pond Water is the place to quench your thirst. It is absolutely it's exhilarating. It's exhilaration in an aluminum can. And let me just hold on a second.
Take another sip. Take another sip there, buddy.
That is
like a commercial.
There's nothing better. Sparkling pond water available. It's available nowhere, but they're hopping on board, and we're proud to have them on as a sponsor.
Be great to take on the golf course as well, man, on some of these hotter days that we're getting here in the springtime. But you could sell it out of the parking lot at the radio station if we could. I know we have like a couple cases there, you know.
Maybe I'll show up at Fairview with a cooler, and I'll sell some. Actually, I don't think Jonesy would like that too much. I'd be undercutting.
I'll smooth it over. He'll never know.
But you got the concession. You got a nice little bar and snack bar in there. I don't want to step on any toes.
Yeah, we'll do it on day when he's not there. We'll do it on day. Okay. We'll set you up on the first hole. We'll get at it. We'll sell that pond water for you.
You tell
make a profit, man.
I'll be there.
Yeah, we got to make a profit, man. What are we gonna sell for? Like $5 a can? You know, it's got that special logo on the front.
It does. The logo in and of itself is worth $5. So
right.
This is from our. This can is still from our 5th Frogiversary this past fall.
Probably expired.
But I got to tell you, it's as fresh as ever when you crack open that can.
If something happens to JT during the show, you know what happened. It's expired pond water that he was drinking. More like swamp water.
It tastes okay. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, how you making out, man? Besides that, you're doing all right?
We'll see if the show goes downhill. I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, everything's looking good. Getting excited here. We're into the swing of the baseball season. We got some Flyers hockey. Flyers head to the Stanley Cup playoffs coming up on the NFL draft. Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, and don't forget, you can catch us on the Seven Mountains Media Sports website as well, over on our My Froggy Valley app too. All those Radio Novo apps, we are currently on there. You can stream us 24/7. Don't forget to catch us there if you're tuning in off of the app. We welcome you aboard to Broad Street and Beyond, where we dive into not only our local sports right here in central Pennsylvania, but also outside all the major sports, of course, in Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and of course, Philly, or we wouldn't call it Broad Street and Beyond. So we have to throw in the Philadelphia sports mainly. That's what we mainly cover here on Broad Street and Beyond. But welcome aboard to all of our new listeners and followers, wherever you may be here in the United States of Americana. Let's tackle the first 3 questions for you, JT. I don't think we got to that in probably a month, but let's get you warmed up. What do you think?
Okay, let's do it.
All right, three questions to warm up JT. When you cut your grass, have you cut your grass yet? Have you cut your grass? Do you have
boxers? Do I have
boxers?
I'm sorry. I thought you were going to go with boxers or briefs.
I ain't going there, buddy.
No, we have a homeowners association that trims the grass. So I have not cut my grass.
So if you were to cut your grass, would you have a push mower or a riding mower?
Well, do you mean is money no object or
oh yeah,
what could I
money's no object, buddy.
Money's no object.
Yeah. Endless budget.
I would love one of those 0-turn mowers.
Yeah.
Those things look like a ton of fun.
Yeah. Just to do like wheelies and stuff or what?
It just looks like it looks like it would be fun and you could get a lot done in a short amount of time.
Indeed.
And that's what I would go with, but more realistically, I'd go with a rider.
Would it have a cup holder for a cold beverage?
Absolutely, it would. Absolutely,
it's got to. It's like a necessity.
for my pond water.
Yeah, that's right. Who could forget? In these upcoming warmer months, my friend, do you prefer outdoor dining or indoor dining?
Still indoor. It really has to be. I'm not opposed to sitting outside to eat, but it's got to be like everything's got to be in place. Like it's just got to be low humidity, you know, maybe later in the day as the sun's starting to set and maybe a
Right.
nice cool breeze. And then I'll be okay to sit outside. But no, man, I'm not and
You don't want a
un,
whole lot, do you? You don't want a whole
no,
lot.
and it's got to be under some shade too. Other than that, because those umbrellas don't cut it.
Yeah, no, they don't. No, they don't. Too many flies outside too. To get in your drinks.
Yeah,
Yeah, not good.
I'll stick with the air conditioning.
Nice. Here's the third question to warm up, JT. Your favorite fictional character? Do you have one?
A fictional character from anything like a
You could,
movie or
it could be from anywhere, buddy. I don't.
a
You
movie
pick.
like a movie or a book.
Movie, book, cartoon. Don't matter to me.
Well, then it's easy.
Child's
Rocky
book.
Balboa.
Ooh, Rocky Yeah, of course. Of course you went there. On Broad Street and beyond, you go with Rocky Balboa.
Yeah. Well,
Fan
wait
favorite.
a second now. Are we sure
Fan
he's
favorite.
are we sure he's a fictional character?
I don't think he
Because
is.
I don't know, because he's so revered in the city of Philadelphia. He's
Yeah.
almost spoken of in such high regard that he's an actual person.
Yeah.
That Rocky Balboa is a real life person. Now he was based on a real life boxer, Chuck Wepner. Chuck Wepner
Was that the
is
guy's real
who
name?
is
Yeah.
well, no, that's not who. It's just that is. I think that is the boxer that the Rocky character is based off of. It
Okay.
wasn't he wasn't it wasn't like a Chuck Wepner story. It was just I think that's where they got the inspiration for the character.
Okay. I did not know that. I mean, I knew it was a different name, but do you think Silver? How about Sylvester Stallone? Do you think when he goes out, people just call him Rocky instead of Sylvester?
Maybe in Philadelphia. I don't know about anywhere else.
I mean, he's got that nickname Sly too. It's a pretty cool
Yeah,
nickname.
that's true. It's hard to say. I would say either they call him Rocky or Rambo.
Yeah, that's right. Rambo. Man, you're bringing up all kinds of nostalgia here. I like this.
Rambo.
Yeah,
That
Rambo.
was some good
That's a
stuff.
good one. The headband was
Did you ever see the Cobra? Did you ever see his movie
No,
The
I didn't
Cobra?
I didn't go into that. I didn't go that
His,
far.
the famous line of that was "You're the disease and I'm the cure."
Nice.
You got to go on YouTube and
Yeah, I'll
just
look at
check
that.
out that moment.
The Cobra. That's what it's
Yeah,
called, huh? Yeah, I never
yeah.
went that far. I didn't go that far. All right, JT, I think you're warmed up. I think we did a
I'm
pretty good
right.
job
Let's
with
go,
those,
man.
man. Yeah, those are good 3 questions that we just start off with there on Broad Street and beyond. Let's get into the sports. We're going to start off, of course, with our Philadelphia Phillies. It's on my shirt here. Rough game again last night. All kinds of fielding mistakes. The offense didn't come to hit again. What are your thoughts here? Losing last night 10 to what did they lose? 10 to 4, 10 to 5? What
T-
was it? 10 to 4?
10-4. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I when I watch the Phillies so far, I think of I borrow a phrase from Larry David. Did you ever see Curb Your Enthusiasm?
No.
Have you ever?
If
Okay,
it's not sports, I
it's
don't watch it.
okay. Well, it's one of my favorite shows of all time, and
Okay.
one of his famous lines is,
And that's it.
That's
That's the
what he
line.
goes, That's kind of what I feel when I watch the Phillies. I'm like, you know, I mean, they're not off to a bad start. They're not off to a great start. They're just,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Kind of average.
they kind of, you know, they have a game where the offense explodes like they had that huge game out in Colorado in game 1.
Yeah.
They scored 13 runs on Monday night against the Cubs, and then you get a couple of stinkers where they have one nice inning and then not much else the rest of the way. You know, last night, you know, I'm watching that a little bit, and I'm seeing, and it just feels like you keep hoping you're going to see something from Aaron Nola that
Yeah.
maybe isn't there consistently anymore. He seems to be kind of I don't know. What do you think? Like a 5-inning guy
Yeah, I mean
anymore?
that's the way he's been. That's the way he's been for the past couple of years. I mean, you see these little blips of great moments from him, but once you get to like the 5th or the 6th inning, it's going well, and you're like, oh yeah, he's going to get through probably maybe 7 or 8 innings in this game, and it just never happens. And that was the same thing
Like
that happened again last night.
again, it's not terrible, but he had
No.
a 3-0 lead, and he gave it up, but it was kept it at 3-3, and so you walk away, you're like, well, again, it wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
It wasn't great, but with the inconsistency of the lineup, you give up the lead and you're not sure, what's going to happen. And the bullpen's been kind of, particularly the bridge area, that bridge setup area to Duran has been a little
Sketchy.
shaky.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little shaky. Well, one thing that has come out is now with Ranger Suarez gone, Phillies pitchers do not field their position very well or execute very well. I mean,
Right.
we had Alvarado throw a ball away last week. We had was it Mesa last night? Is he the guy
Yeah.
that got off the mound
Yep.
and he had a ball hit back to him. He went to second to start a double play and threw that one wide, and that kept the inning alive and made him pay. And yeah, I just Brad Keller isn't quite what we hoped he was going to be. He seemed like coming in based on his numbers that he was going to be a really good high leverage type setup man. Um, he's been all right. Alvarado's been not great. Duran's been good, but you just they're kind of where they're kind of the team that they've been, and you're gonna hope that they get on a little bit of a roll. Unfortunately, the rest of the division hasn't jumped way ahead of them,
No.
so it's not like they're out of it. The Braves right now are playing the best, the early front runners. They're 11-7, but everybody else is kind of bunched together. I guess I'm surprised to see the Mets at the bottom at 7-11. Um, I imagine being a Mets fan is also frustrating, but looking at you've got the Marlins at 9-9, the Phillies and the Nationals are both 8-9. And then there's the Braves. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, if if they don't win tonight, that's one thing that I've noticed the past couple of years is they always seem to get rolling at home when they need to. And if they lose tonight, they'll have lost 2 out of 3 to both the Diamondbacks and the Cubs.
And they haven't been playing good at home either.
No, they
No.
really
Yeah.
haven't. And
No.
I just don't like I guess I'm a little pessimistic right now when they get into these like tighter one-run type games
Right.
where it seems like other teams that they play know how to hit situationally better than the Phillies, and they execute better, they manufacture runs better, and the Phillies just kind of they could score in bunches, and then they could do almost next to nothing. That top of the lineup, there's just really hasn't been any consistency there. It's
Mm.
they'll feast a little bit on some bad pitching and hit some home runs here and there, but um, there just doesn't seem to be that consistency that we were hoping for.
You look at that lineup and it's like from top to bottom. I mean, there's so many people that are not hitting lights out. I mean, the only person that you could pick out in that lineup right now is Justin Crawford. That's about the only guy that's really has been consistent at the plate. And when you talk about even the pitching with Aaron Nola, I mean, what do you think they're going to do with him? I mean, if this continues the way it's going, I mean, you signed him long term here now, another deal for Aaron Nola. I mean, do you move him back to like a third or fourth starter, maybe? Maybe relieve some pressure from him if he can't even
Well,
get through 5, 6 innings?
he's been with the Phillies so long, and he's had so
That
many
don't
great.
mean nothing, JT. Years
Well, but
played, that don't mean nothing.
I'm going to tell you I'm going to try to get into the head of the Phillies manager
Okay.
that
All right.
he's done so much for them. He's given them so many good starts that he's going to get the
Deserved it.
benefit of the doubt. He's going to
Yeah.
get the benefit of the doubt
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah.
This is not, again, because he hasn't been terrible yet. He's going to get the benefit of the doubt for a while. I mean, they kind of have moved him back. I mean, if you think about it, for how many years he was considered their number one, he would get the opening day starts. He's not that anymore. And, um, if you're saying he shouldn't be the number 2 guy in the rotation, yeah, you could definitely make an argument for that. Maybe Luzardo. We'll see we'll see
Yeah,
how the
I don't
rest of
think he's going to be the number 2 guy when Wheeler comes back. I don't think he's going to be the number 2 guy when Wheeler comes back. Don't you think they'll
now,
push him back to maybe 3? Nola?
you would
Sanchez
think,
will
but
still be your number 1 guy, don't you think? Or are you going to put Wheeler at
oh,
the
yeah,
first spot?
no, I think Sanchez
Yeah.
because they're not 100% sure. They got to take a wait and see approach with Wheeler. I mean,
Yeah.
he's done okay in his rehab starts, but until he gets up here and gets a couple starts under his belt, they'll have to, that'll be the chance to see what they really have with him. And then I think, with some off days in there, they'll adjust the rotation as they feel like they need to. But Walker will be out of there. That'll be
Yeah. Welcome sight.
addition by subtraction.
Yeah.
And at that point, maybe you do look at moving Nola down in the rotation. Maybe you go Sanchez, Wheeler, Luzardo, or Sanchez, Luzardo, Wheeler, Nola, Painter,
Yeah, change it up.
something like that.
So
Yeah.
what would you say? We're 17 games in here, JT. What is the biggest disappointment up to this point? Is it the offense? Is it so far some of the starting pitching, the sloppy play that's in the field? What's the biggest disappointment so far for the Phils?
Well, I shouldn't be. I mean, it's not a team that's really built for defense. I mean, Bryson Stott is really good in at second base. I mean, I always think he's always a Gold Glove
Yeah.
potential to win a Gold Glove. Garcia is definitely an upgrade defensively in right field over Castellanos, but he hasn't hit consistently. Crawford I think has a potential to be a good bat, but I don't think he is as good of a center fielder right now as Harrison Bader was at the second half of last year, and even Johan Rojas. So that doesn't. I guess I shouldn't be disappointed in the lineup, but I guess I am because I keep feeling like, you know, every year you see like the past couple years, you see the shortcomings and you think, well, we see it. They have to see it, and they're going to do something about it because there's too much talent in that lineup not to make adjustments, and it just doesn't. It just seems to be the same lineup every year, and maybe even a little bit worse. I mean, I'm sorry, Bohm at that spot in the lineup. Now, I guess they've moved him down a little bit, but just that cleanup spot in general has been a weakness.
Now, what do you think they're going to do? I mean, last night Sosa with a real good game. Do they put Sosa in there in place of Bohm here tonight, and see what happens? Maybe it was Sosa instead of putting Bohm out there.
I mean, they could do that. I'm leery of the fact that, Sosa is a guy that looks good because of the workload he has, and he's a good, like, off the bench guy and can fill in for a little bit. And I feel like the more you play him, the more he kind of,
You don't think it?
regresses into a really, like a just a, you got to be careful with those guys. Like if you play them too much, then they lose their effectiveness in the role that they provide now.
So you're not high on Edmundo being a consistent day-to-day player.
An everyday player? No,
Yeah.
I think they're going to stick with what they have unless they make a trade and they trade Bohm and to either, and if they don't get like a third baseman back and they address something else that they have, then they would have to make Sosa an everyday player, and then you could platoon him with, like, say, Otto Kemp or something like that.
Yeah, I think that offense is so disappointing. I mean, we've had this same core of offense here for the past couple of years. We're expecting everything to be great. Like once the season starts, you get that hype of like you just said, this year's going to be different. This year's not different. We're starting off slow once again with the offense, with the bats. They're not producing the top 4 guys that you think would be producing. Turner, he been having a decent game every now and then. Schwarber, yeah, again, the guy hits multiple home runs. That's great. But what about the small ball? Bryce Harper in there too. You got Alec Bohm in the top of that lineup too. Adolis Garcia, I think I got to say, I mean, I was hoping for bigger things at the plate. I know, the past year or two, he hasn't been great at the plate and consistent at the plate, but I thought maybe this was going to be another breakout year for him to start at the plate. And you haven't seen that at all, but some shining bright spots. You got Crawford, but maybe Crawford at some point in time will move up in that lineup. and bump some of those guys down that aren't hitting. But it's just you get it stuffed down our throats as Philadelphia sports fans, JT, each and every single year with these core players and thinking it's going to be different, and we have the same result already 17 games into the season.
Yeah, two things piggybacking off of what you just said. One as far as Crawford goes, I would love to see him go higher up in the
Yeah,
lineup
me too.
and
Yeah,
into that leadoff spot. I
yeah.
would love to see what he would how he would change the dynamic of that lineup, being able to get on base more. And two, as far as the disappointment in the lineup, I th- it's too much of a it just seems like it feels like now maybe somebody could probably rattle off some stats that say to the contrary, but it feels like too much of a feast or famine type lineup where there's just there's just way too many strikeouts up and down that lineup. Too many guys that strike out and just don't approach things, I think, in certain situations the way that they should. Last week, I guess it was the game on Sunday, the series finale against the Diamondbacks,
Please tell me you're
where
going to the Justin Crawford when he hit a triple and Turner came up. Are you going to that game?
I'm going to the game on Sunday where they had twice in that game they had the runners at the corners and no outs and didn't score.
Yeah.
Was that one of the innings?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that was the game. I'm thinking of the game when Justin Crawford. I think there was 2 outs. They were down
Oh, I
by a
know what
run.
game yeah, I know what game you're
Crawford hit the
talking about. Yeah,
triple. Turner comes
right,
up and pops out because he's trying to hit a home run, not play
right.
small ball, not just put the ball in play. Makes the out. The game's over. They lose by a run, and you had Crawford sitting at third base after he just busted his tail to get a triple, and Turner comes up and pops out.
Yeah, they had the game on Sunday. They were down. They were down 2-0. They came back. They took the lead. They fell behind 4-3, and in the bottom of the eighth, they had runners at the corners and nobody out. And Stott comes up and strikes out on a bad pitch. Doesn't put the ball in play. And then Marsh is on first, and Garcia comes up. Again, at this point, we're looking for a fly ball to at least tie the game,
Yeah.
and he pops out to second, and on the pitch, Marsh took off for second. Well, he got caught down at second, and I guess wasn't paying attention to what was going on, and was stuck at second base on a pop out to second, or a pop out to the second baseman, and he got doubled off, and that was it. And then they didn't do anything in the bottom of the ninth. Those are the kinds of things that I think really frustrate you as a Phillies fan, is that they make really dumb mistakes running the bases. They don't play great defense, and they don't manufacture runs and play good situational baseball, as opposed to a team like the Diamondbacks, who I think you saw are very comfortable in those type of games.
Yeah.
They had one they had one last night against the Orioles where they got down and they came back, and they had a big inning, and they kind of scratch and claw, and you'd like to see that more consistently out of the Phillies.
Yeah, I think that and base running is another thing. I mean, it's one thing to be aggressive on the base pass. It's another thing to be stupid. And when you're Bryce Harper trying to extend a single that's clearly a single and try to get it into a double, you're, I can see it from home. Why are you trying to extend it into a double? It's
Right.
clearly just a single, and I get it. You want to be aggressive on the base pass, but then he made another mental error in that game, and he got caught in a rundown between third and home again. I mean, this is the
Right.
same thing that keeps happening with him every single year, and the Phillies are doing it almost year in, year out here with the base running errors, the fielding errors, and something's got to give here this season before it really turns into another season like we've had last year again with the Philadelphia Phillies. And I'm not sure exactly if that page is going to turn in this portion of the season. 17 games in, you're still early enough to do something about it. But I don't know if this is going to turn around, or this is going to be another average season like we had last year with the Phils.
Well, when you say average, you mean like how they perform in the postseason? Because
Absolutely. Yeah.
if you
Listen,
say if you say average, someone can come back at you and say, "Well, they've won back-to-back division titles."
doesn't mean
I mean,
anything. Doesn't mean anything.
That's not average, but they are average, and they have underperformed in the postseason, because if you're winning a division, this is a group that got that perked everyone up. Everyone's ears got perked up when they went to the World Series in 2022, and it's been a gradual regression ever since. Even though there's been some regular season success, this group is ultimately going to be judged on how it performs in the postseason. And, you could say that's unfair, but look, they don't shy away from it either. Like, I always say, if you're going to embrace that, if you're going to embrace those expectations when things are going well, you gotta wear it when you're expected to do well and you don't live up to those expectations.
Totally. Yep.
You can't have it both ways.
Yep. Yep. And I think that's what's happening with the Phils here. We'll see what happens here the rest of the way. They play again tonight. Final game of that series, of course, with the Chicago Cubs and Scott Kingery. Also, Scott Kingery playing, for the
Oh
Chicago
yeah,
Cubs.
Scotty Jetpacks.
I'm surprised he got a good round of applause the other night. I was really shocked by that. Did you see that?
Well, I think it was kind of like, well, what is he? He wasn't around enough to totally disappoint everybody, but he didn't do enough to
Right.
warrant, like, so it's just kind of like, I think it was like we're indifferent to you type applause.
Yeah, you're not in Philadelphia, so we'll just clap for you anyway.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Let's switch gears over to the Baltimore Orioles. Not too bad here for the Baltimore Orioles. Currently above 500. They're playing as we speak. Do this recording right now. They're tied with the Arizona Diamondbacks right now in the top of the seventh. It is a 4-4 game. What are you seeing from Baltimore this year, there, JT?
Yeah, they've been pretty scrappy. They've had some tough losses in there, but they're a team that got off to kind of a rough start, but they have righted the ship. They're really this series against Arizona has been pretty entertaining. Um, they had the monster comeback in game one. I don't know how
Yeah,
much, if you got a chance to see some of that. They were
a little
down
bit. Yep.
7-1, I think, in the sixth inning, and they came storming back. Jeremiah Jackson had a grand slam in that game. He had another homer later. Pete Alonso probably had his best
Game so
moment in
far.
his young tenure with the Orioles. Um, last night, again, another one of those games that could have gone either way. I think it was a little surprising to see them get out to a lead, and then with Trevor Rogers on the mound, and just kind of see it all fall apart in the fifth inning. Um, but their bullpen has been pretty good. Like,
Yeah,
their
it is.
bullpen has been pretty solid. Like, when Rogers fell apart last night, the bullpen kind of kept it locked down and gave them an opportunity to get back in it and possibly, try to win it, but they just couldn't get over the hump. So we'll see. And the Diamondbacks are a scrappy team, and this will be interesting to see if the Orioles can scratch this one out and get a series win here. I was told right before we went on the air by Noah, a huge Orioles fan, that quote, we can have Weston Wilson back if we want him.
Yeah, well, we don't, no, they can keep him. They can
I,
keep him.
s- I
One
said,
bright spot in their bullpen though has been Rico Garcia. I think he's been in like 9 or 10 games already.
yeah,
I saw I
yeah,
saw
he's
I
been a,
saw his whip. You see his whip? What it is?
no, what is it?
I think it's like .33 is his whip.
Wow.
I mean, and that's in 9 games, I believe. I have to look it up here, but he has been one solid dude in that bullpen for Baltimore, and I think that's what's basically keeping them in games too. Pete Alonso definitely struggling here in the early going as a Baltimore Oriole. When you watch Pete Alonso, did he gain some weight? He looks different in a white and orange uniform. I don't know if it was like the Met pinstripes, but looks like he's gained a little bit in the off season.
Of muscle?
No, not muscle. No, I'm not
Oh,
talking muscle.
oh,
No, I'm not talking muscle.
something,
Talking about around the
little some,
waist.
something around the waist, little in the middle.
Yeah.
Is he
Do you
getting a
notice
suit
that?
tire?
I don't know if
No,
it's like the white and the orange jersey, but where the I mean, I know they had black jerseys when he was with New York, but like he just looks like he's got some extra baggage there this season that
well, isn't black supposed to make you look thinner?
I think so. But the
Oh,
white and orange doesn't make him look any thinner when he's at the
well,
plate. Maybe he's just that jacked. I don't know.
maybe the
Maybe he's
Mets
just that jacked.
pinstripes, maybe the Mets pinstripes appear to make you look slimmer. It
Is
has a
that
slimmer look to it.
yeah, it might be. Might be.
I don't know.
Yeah. Gunnar Henderson has had a couple of good games too for Baltimore, but he's certainly struggling too at the plate a little bit here to start the season. But we'll see. Currently, Arizona has just taken the lead, five to
They
four,
have
in
5 to
that
4.
game. Yep, against the Baltimore Orioles. Big surprise, I think, this year is definitely the Pittsburgh Pirates switching gears out to the west side of Pennsylvania. They have been kind of on a roll. They've been hitting lights out on the offensive side of things. Skeens just had a pretty decent game the other night as well, and they are rolling. O'Neal Cruz has been a guy that has just been
He's
on fire.
fantastic.
Yeah, they have been outstanding. What are you seeing from the Pittsburgh Pirates as they wrap up the series tonight against the Washington Nationals?
It's funny, the first time that we talked about O'Neal Cruz to open the season was from the game on opening day where he had 2 horrendous plays out in center field
Yeah.
that led to big scoring innings for the Mets. And he's fantastic. I haven't shied away from it. I've been bullish on this team since the beginning of the season. I feel like the pieces are there for them to make a run at a playoff spot this year. Um, they haven't changed my mind. I know it's early, but I like the makeup of this team. I think they've got some really good young pieces, some guys that are young players that are ascending. You know what I mean? They seem to be eager to take that next step, and they are taking that next step. Um, Paul Skeens was probably like in heaven the other night. He pitched well, and it was a stress-free game.
Yeah,
They put up like 16 runs
something like that. Yeah.
against the
They've been
Nationals. Now I
they've
know
been putting up some monster numbers, man, on offense this year. They really, really each and every game they got to be averaging probably more than 8 or 9 hits a game right now. Pittsburgh got to
yeah,
be.
they're really, that there's a lineup that looks like, you know, there's some good consistency out of them. I know they lost last night, but they were right there in that game, and you know, you always feel like they have a good shot to win. That's just the way I feel. Um,
I think they've been a big
I really
surprise
think. I
this
mean,
year.
they're right there at the top of the division. Yeah, I think they've been a pleasant surprise, and it's them and the Reds right now are
Yeah.
leading the Central, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got Brian Reynolds in that lineup. You also got Brandon Lowe that's really starting to heat up a little bit. You also got let me see, Ryan O'Hearn. That's who I was thinking of too in that lineup. That's batting well over 300 right now. They're
Yeah,
real. I mean, I gotta say, I mean, I knew that they were going to do a lot better than they did last year during the season with the lineup from top to bottom that they got, and even their bullpen has been pretty incredible for Pittsburgh this year going forward. I mean, it's in some of those games where some of their starters have struggled, pitched about 4 or 5 innings. The bullpen has just come in and been absolutely lights out for Pittsburgh.
yeah. Man, I don't. You can't. We can't switch teams here, but
You
they're
want to
they're.
go? Let's go be Pirates fans. I'm gonna put a yellow peel on my Phillies hats here.
But their trajectory is definitely headed in the right direction. If they stay healthy, they called up Connor Griffin. I think the
Sign
sky's
him
going to be
long
the
term now, but he signed an
yeah.
eight, 9 year deal.
I think the sky's going to be the limit for him, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this kind of all plays out. But their lineup has been really good. I mean,
Yeah,
there's just there's a couple of guys there, but I mean, if you look at it from top to bottom, even a guy like Brandon Lau, who he's been up and down at times in the early part, but you know he's walked 11 times, so he gets on base. Um,
they're
he's
taking
he's
pitches,
batting,
man. They've been taking
yeah,
a lot of pitches.
he's batting 268, and you're like, okay, but his on base percentage is almost 400.
Yeah,
So the guy gets on base. O'Neal Cruz and Ryan O'Hearn both batting over 300. Reynolds is up there too. He's like in the 290s. Um, the bottom of their lineup maybe isn't quite as good, but even last night they had a couple of opportunities late in the game. Nick York had a chance with the bases loaded and didn't get it done. He had another chance really late in the game. Um, but they very well could be. I said from the beginning I thought they were going to challenge for a wild card.
Uh-oh.
Um,
Prediction time from JT. Here we go.
but but they could,
Go
dare I
ahead.
say,
Tell us, JT.
take the
Tell
leap.
us.
Should I take the leap and say that they
What?
could challenge for the division?
I think they could. I mean, they look. I mean, early going. I mean, obviously, you're 17 games into the season here, but we're not going to make any long-term predictions on what's going to happen postseason and that sort of thing. But I mean, I think with the lineup that they have, the bullpen they have, the starting pitching that's been producing this season, I mean, I think they could be well on their way. They might get more than 30 people in their stadium to watch a game this season, so that'd be a welcome sight, I guess.
So what you're saying is you want to bet a smash burger on that?
No, we're not betting anything. I still haven't even gotten your 2 smash burgers because we're so busy. We can't even get out to get lunch and smash burgers, man. Like I said, they're gonna have a new special by the time we get smash burgers. Might be
That's
pizza
true.
or something by the time we get there. But looking for where I'm not making any bets here, man. Not on the Pirates, at least. Not on the Pirates. I like what they're doing. I like what the Pirates are doing right now.
Well, I'm giving you great odds. I'm saying the Pirates will win the division, and you have all those other teams to choose from.
Yeah, I don't want to pick anybody else. Not the way they're playing. Pirates are looking good. I mean, it's great to
They
see. I'm
are.
glad that finally they have a contender out there in Pittsburgh. It looks like to start this baseball season, and I mean, it is one of the most amazing ballparks if you've ever been
That's
out to
true.
Pittsburgh, man. With the
It is.
skyline
It
out
is.
there, the bridge that's
It's
out
a
there,
fantastic ballpark, and
unbelievable.
it would be great to see the city, really get behind that team, and for that team to really take off, and to see that ballpark get packed. As you get into the summer months, and hopefully they can keep playing like they are now, and be right in the thick of things in the NL Central.
And they're playing better than the Philadelphia Phillies. Raise the
They are.
Jolly Roger.
They are right now.
Right? Yeah,
Raise the
they are.
Jolly Roger. Yep.
Yeah. That's the baseball talk. Wrapping that up. Let's go into hockey there, JT. Let's just briefly talk about the Washington Capitals, the season that was. Obviously, they just wrapped it up last night with a win. Last night was pretty much all about, though, Alexander Ovechkin. Is he going to return next year? A lot of folks probably not going to happen with the way things turned out maybe this year, but very disappointing season, of course, for the Washington Capitals.
Did you see when they played the Penguins over the weekend that the Penguins players were coming out on the ice to
They didn't shake
come
hands
up
at
to
the
him and,
end, though.
and shake hands, and we brushed him off like, hey, get out of here.
Yeah, but they didn't
I never
shake hands at the end either. They didn't shake any hands at the end either. Like, I
What do you
guess
mean?
I don't know if the Capitals wanted to shake hands at the end or the Penguins, but it might have been the Penguins. I think the Penguins wanted to go and like do a traditional shaking of the hands because that was going to be the final time. Maybe Crosby and Ovechkin at the end of the game, but the Caps
Oh,
just.
is that what happened?
But I
I
think the
thought they were.
Caps just went off the ice.
I thought they wanted to come back out and shake hands with Ovechkin, because it could be, it could be the last time that they
Maybe that's
see
what it
him.
was. Yeah, maybe that's what it
Yeah,
was.
because you don't shake hands after a regular season
But
game. You
but
would after.
pregame they did something, did they? Him, Crosby, and Malkin, they all came out on center ice and had a little picture session and photo session before the game started.
Yeah, yeah, they did that, but I think he kind of shooed him away after the game, like, "Hey, I never said this was going to be my last season or the
Yeah,
last time you're going to see me."
yeah.
Maybe he was thinking, "You're going to see me in the playoffs," but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, what's going to happen next year here with Washington? Obviously, if Ovechkin doesn't come back, JT may have a youth movement up there in Washington with a couple of the players from Hershey now being sent back down for Hershey's maybe possible playoff run coming up here. Miroshnichenko sent down, Ilya Protas sent down. I believe Stevenson was sent down today too, as well with the Bears. But what do you think is going to happen next year with Washington? Could be a completely different lineup too next year.
Well, I think they've already sort of, in a way, they've kind of done that already. They've gotten younger in certain areas. I I think it's going to be up to Ovechkin. I
Yeah.
think that's going to be, it's if I think if he wants to come back, I find it hard to believe that he wouldn't be playing for the Capitals. Um, I don't know I don't know what the Caps do. They signed some veteran guys that were that were playing on the higher end of like what their expectations would be, and they performed really well last year, and they weren't bad this year. They really kind of ran out of
Inconsistent.
steam.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
inconsistent. Yeah.
you know they were kind of up and down the whole year. They never quite got on that run, like a really good run, or at least at a time when it really benefited them. You know what I mean? And
Right.
and I'm looking when you look at I'm looking at their payroll right now. I mean, if they depending on what they try to do, I don't know what they've got some guys uh like Duhame and Kampf who were on you know shorter deals that are going to be unrestricted free agents. Connor McMichael, he's a restricted free agent. And Ovechkin's an unrestricted free agent. I mean, they traded John Carlson.
I think that was
I
a
don't
big
know
deal
what.
for them during that season. Don't you think? Getting rid of Carlson? I think that kind of
Yeah,
maybe
it
trickled
was a
over a
little.
little bit.
It was a little surprising in the sense that they were right in the thick of things, and then they decided to make that trade. So it was sort of like you almost felt like based on how they were playing during the season and that move, it almost sends kind of like a mixed message almost
Yeah.
like,
Right.
well, are we in it to go for the playoffs um or are we kind of, looking ahead to the future? And I'm sure they have a plan and that, they were he was going to be a free agent too. And I'm sure dollars and cents came into that as well. He was on the last year of his deal and they were probably thinking, well, you know, we don't want to spend the money that it's going to take to retain someone like him because, I think he can get a decent payday, even
Yeah.
though he is, you know, up there in years in terms of an NHL player. He is certainly proved to be very durable. Um, they got a couple guys. They may, but they're committed long term to some guys. On the back end, Chikrin, Roy, and Sandine are all on long term deals now. Trevor Van Riemsdyk and Tim Liljegren are both unrestricted free agents, so they probably, my guess is they won't be back. But again, we're talking about guys in the margins, right? Not
Yeah.
not like the core guys. Like those guys are signed. Like Tom Wilson signed long term. Dylan Strome, Pierre Luc Dubois, like those guys are committed long term. Now they've got guys next year that they can bring up. Certainly, I would think Miroshnichenko has a great shot to be on the
Yeah.
Caps next year.
Yep.
Little pro, having him and his big brother Alexei on the team together. Um,
Could see
you know,
Crystal there too. Could see Crystal up
could
there
see
next year.
Crystal there. I,
Yep.
I don't know what they do. Um, you probably know this better more than I do, but like defensemen down on the Bears, like any young guys, defensemen that they're particularly high on that could come up next year and fill the roles of like if they don't bring back a guy like Van Riemsdyk who's 34 and Liljegren if they don't bring him back, are there young defensemen on the Bears that they could look to fill those voids next year?
Obviously, I think the leaders. What'd you say? Chikrin is signed till? What is Chikrin
He
signed till? Did you say?
He signed till at least, let me see here. He doesn't become a free agent till after the 29-30 season.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, Chikrin, I mean, he had a really decent season this year for Washington. And I think he kind of picked up the slack when they got rid of Carlson there. But, I mean, when you look on defense for Hershey, I mean, who are they really going to bring up there? You're not going to bring up a guy like, Aaron Ness has now been out. Maybe this Leon Mugli that was down there in Hershey as defenseman. He was fairly good. McDonald had a good year, but McDonald's another guy that's getting up there in years. They're not going to bring him up. Gucciardi, probably not going to bring him up either. Schuneman, possibly. He's still a younger guy. Schuneman, that's down there. Chesley had a fairly decent season this year, too. But I'm not sure there's a lot of guys down in Hershey that they're probably really big on and saying, hey, we're going to throw him on one of these lines with Chikrin that's, up with Washington. But it's going to be an interesting offseason of what happens with some of these guys that are down in Hershey. Where are they going to go if they're going to, make their way up to, obviously they'll have their training camp and everything else, prior to the season starts, where a lot of those guys from the Bears go up there to the Caps camp and test the waters up there. But I'm not sure if anybody down in Hershey is going to be the exact answer. I think maybe the Caps in the offseason may be looking to trade or pick somebody up from maybe free agency and add to Chikrin on the defensive side of things there.
Yeah, I haven't looked closely enough. I've heard that it's not a great free agent class as
Yeah.
far as forwards go and wingers, but I haven't looked close enough to see like who's gonna be a free agent defensively that might be a good fit for the Caps.
Yeah, we'll see what happens here in the offseason. Not a good way to end the season there in the district for the Washington Caps, but now Caps fans are going to have to hope for the Hershey Bears to get in the postseason. We'll talk about them here in just a little bit. Let's get over to the series that's going to happen here in the NHL playoffs. Big series here for the Philadelphia Flyers taking on, of course, the Pittsburgh Penguins. Flyers finally back in the postseason since the year of 2020, the last time that they were in the postseason there, JT. Well, this is going to be an amazing series, I believe, between the two cross-state rivals, Flyers, Penguins. Of course, the Flyers, big coming up for Porter Martone. I think he made a huge difference here for the Flyers. Forrester coming back as well. Talk about this series coming up for the Penguins and the Flyers.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it'd be interesting to see because I think just getting to the postseason has been a big deal for the Flyers.
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, the run that they went on here in March was, I mean, nothing short of phenomenal. I mean,
Yeah, it
they
was
were
amazing.
9 points out of a wild card spot with 60 games played in the season, and they just, from the Olympic break on, they've been
Pedal down.
terrific. And you're right. The Tyson Forrester coming back when they originally thought that he was going to be out for the season, and Porter Martone, um, with Michigan State getting eliminated, he signed his entry level contract, and just those two guys have injected so much life and confidence into that lineup, and you could see a guy like Alex Bump playing with more confidence out there. Michkov has been playing with more confidence. All of those guys. Owen Tippett has just sort of ascended this year, and it's been really fun to watch. Now, I don't know if they're ready to be like a season playoff team. They're definitely going to be an underdog against Pittsburgh, who has much more established guys. Crosby and Malkin has given this team fits. I certainly give them a chance against the Penguins. I think they can give the Penguins a series. I mean, I'm flyered up, so the fan of me is going to say, well,
Yeah,
The
JT.
Flyers,
Get him, buddy. Get him.
the Flyers could definitely take these, rotten, stinking Pittsburgh Penguins. But I'm trying to be realistic about it as
Yeah.
well.
Oh, yeah.
I would think one round, a second round would be about the max, I think, for this Flyers team, the way they're presently constructed. Because then you're thinking, okay, they could scratch and claw and everything could fall right to beat the Penguins. But then now you're looking at playing like probably the Hurricanes in the second round of the playoffs. And I know the Flyers beat the Hurricanes the other night to clinch a playoff spot, but look, Carolina had like 6 of their top guys out of the lineup, and the Flyers still needed a 4-round shootout to beat them. I think they don't quite match up well with a team like the Hurricanes. But look, the Flyers at this point, nobody really expected the Flyers to make the playoffs and go on this run that they did. And, in my opinion, they've got nothing to lose here.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Totally agree.
they should just go for it and see what happens. I would think more the pressure is on the Penguins based on the fact that they have a veteran roster and that they had overall a better regular season. They finished solidly in second place behind Carolina. And you would think if Crosby and Malkin and Letang and Carlson are going to take one big last run, this would be the year to do it.
Yeah, I think you would agree with me too. After that Olympic break, I mean, there is no other two teams in that Metro division that caught more fire than the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Philadelphia Flyers after that Olympic break. I mean, you had Carolina right there in the lead the whole entire way, but those two teams, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and a couple things are probably going to have to go Philadelphia's way. Vladar obviously was probably their MVP this season
Oh yeah,
by far,
absolutely,
and Trevor
absolutely.
Zegras was an absolute disappointment in that second half and after the Olympic break. I mean, he had a kind of a lights out season that first half, and then he kind of went non-existent there in the second half part, totally in that after the Olympic break. I mean, Zegras was nowhere to be found. So Zegras is going to have to play a lot better than what he's been playing. Vladar's got to be lights out in that net. I think those are probably, don't you think, the two main things that got to go right here for the Philadelphia Flyers in the playoffs?
Well, I mean, definitely Vladar has to play, exactly like he's played in the regular
Yeah.
season. I I'm not as concerned about Zegras. I'm concerned more about their defense core. Even these games that they've won, when they've played some more established teams, I've seen that defense core get pushed around a lot. Um, I'm a little worried how they can, how they're going to hold up uh, getting pushed by a team like the Penguins, but we'll see. I still give them, at least a 50-50 chance to get out of that series.
Let me ask you, JT, how many games does this series go between the Penguins and the Flyers? I'm not asking you who's going to win. I'm just asking you how many games is this series going to go between the two?
6.
6 games. Yeah, I think it's going. I'm excited. I can't wait till this series gets underway. It gets underway this weekend, correct?
Yeah, they haven't released the schedule yet. They'll probably do it I would think some point soon. There's still regular season games to be
Yeah.
played tonight and tomorrow, Thursday. But everything's been clinched at this point, except for I think there's still some playoff positioning well, everything's been clinched in the East. I don't know if everything's been clinched in the West at this point. Let me take a quick
I
look
don't think it
here.
has. Yeah, not yet in the West.
Well, no,
Not in the
no, it
West.
has now. It has now. The Kings and the Mammoth have
Must have been
clinched the
late
two
last
wild
night.
card
Yeah.
spots. So the spots have been clinched, but maybe not the positioning yet for everybody. Yeah, because I think Anaheim can still catch Edmonton for second place in the Pacific spots on the wild card side of things. Um, I guess it's still not out of the question. Edmonton's still only 2 behind Vegas for first place in the Pacific. So um, I imagine they'll have it out pretty soon once everything is kind of locked into who's playing who.
Yeah, state of Pennsylvania is absolutely excited for this matchup in the NHL playoffs. Penguins, Flyers, they've met, what, 8 times now? This is going to be the 8th time they've met in the playoffs between the Penguins and the Flyers. Excited to get that going here this weekend. If you're just catching us here on Broad Street and beyond, we welcome you, of course, here to our YouTube channel, brought to you by Fairview Golf Course out there in Quentin. Of course, out there on Quentin Road, celebrating great golf well over 60 years. And of course, if you're catching us over on the Radio Novo app, we are on there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Catch up on some of our back episodes as well. We're excited to be a part of the Seven Mountains Media Sports family there. You can check us out on the Seven Mountains Media Sports website as well. So a couple
Yep,
places you can check us out.
7mmsports.com is the place to go for that.
Yeah, so we are portable. Take us wherever you go here coming up this summer, of course, with all the sports that are happening. Let's move over to the American Hockey League. Nothing been decided as of yet for the Hershey Bears with 3 regular season games to go. This could go either direction. They have not clinched a playoff spot yet. A lot of things got to go their way here for the Hershey Bears. They're in action later on tonight as they will take on the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Penguins up at Mohegan Arena at, what do they call that? Casey Plaza, I guess, up there at Scranton, Wilkes-Barre. So they take on the Penguins. Haven't had much success up there in Scranton this year. So what are we seeing from the Bears? Are they going to make the playoffs now that they get a couple of guys, returning to that lineup, JT? Or does this go a completely different direction for the chocolate and white as we get into the final regular season weekend for Hershey?
Well, so let me ask you this: the guys that they just sent down, is that going to be it? Like,
Oh, probably.
would other guys like an Ethan Frank wouldn't come
No, he
down
can't.
for
I
the
think they gotta put him, I think, through waivers and a whole
okay.
9 yards there with him, but the 3 guys that got sent down, Miroshnichenko, Protas, and, Stevenson today, I think that's pretty much what you're gonna see. I mean, those are kinda your main guys that you're gonna need in a playoff type atmosphere, playoff type run. They've been your your biggest guys, so far. You had Stevenson and net that just been, fairly good. I'm not gonna say he had above average season in the net, Stevenson, but, obviously with Protas and Miroshnichenko, they have been your top offensive contributors all season long in the regular season.
Yeah, I think they're going to make the Calder Cup playoffs. I still think though they need one more win out of these last three to really solidify their chances. Um, Lehigh Valley has now they played well the last two games. They had big wins over Bridgeport and Cleveland, I believe. So and they play the Springfield tonight, who they're chasing. They're right on their heels. Uh, so if the Bears falter, I don't think that they can rely on because one of the things that's been keeping them afloat is the fact that like Lehigh Valley below them hasn't played very well for a while.
Mhm.
Now Lehigh Valley's starting to find some desperation in their game. They had a bunch of guys last night that were called up and played for the Flyers in the last regular season game that didn't mean anything for Philadelphia. And then all of those guys were loaned back to Lehigh Valley, like Gaucher and David Yurichek and Oliver Bonk, two of their young defensemen. Um, so yeah, these last three games, they definitely need, I think, one more win to hold off Lehigh Valley. Um, and we'll see. Maybe they could pass Springfield for fifth, but I think that's about as high as they could go. Well, I mean, I guess getting fourth and catching Bridgeport wouldn't be out of the question. They do play Bridgeport coming up on Saturday night. They haven't fared very well against Bridgeport lately, but we'll see. It'd be really cool to see them win tonight in Wilkes-Barre Scranton, and 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 definitely, I think that a win would clinch things for them officially because I think their magic number is down to two.
Yeah.
But again, they're playing a good Wilkes-Barre Scranton team, a Bridgeport team they've had trouble with on Saturday, and then the regular season finale on Sunday against Rochester.
Yeah, nothing's a definite in that 5th through 7th spot right now in that Atlantic division. The Phantoms are at 66 points. Thunderbirds are at 68. The Bears are sitting there at 5th with 69. Islanders already clinched there with 72, but nothing has been guaranteed as of yet for the Hershey Bears, and they definitely need to focus on their business, not anybody else's business, and try to maybe wrap up this regular season with 3 straight wins. Hopefully they can do that or string 2 out of 3 wins together. But what do you think the chances are once the Bears get into the Calder Cup playoffs? How far does the chocolate and white go there, JT?
Mm, I'm not too optimistic that they make a big run here. I think they're going to get in. Let's say they play. It's funny if they can somehow get out of that sixth spot and play maybe Bridgeport, maybe get another crack at Bridgeport in the first round. I could maybe give them a fighting chance in a short series to get to the second round. Um, but if they're matched up in the first round with Charlotte, uh,
It's over.
I really don't like their
No.
chances.
Yeah, they just got destroyed by Charlotte the other night. What was it, 6-1? I think they got creamed there down in Charlotte, 6-1 game. But I think a lot of folks here in Central Pennsylvania do not have high hopes if Hershey does get into the Calder Cup playoffs. That's just kind of the way the season has gone. They've been inconsistent. It's been up and down. They've been turning the puck over. They got a young team, and obviously Miroshnichenko, Protas, Stevenson coming down. They're going to help them, but it's not going to get them very far, even in the playoffs with the guys that are going to be sent down. And it's kind of one of those years for the Hershey Bears where you kind of look at it as it's the season that was, and we look on to next season. Even if they do to get to the Calder Cup playoffs, maybe they'll make a surprise in the playoffs. But I don't see that happening. Just the way things have gone for the chocolate and white this year, I don't think there's high hopes for the Hershey Bears making a Calder Cup championship, raising another banner up there in Hershey.
Well, no, not definitely not this year, in my opinion. But it was good they got the one win in Charlotte. If they would have gotten, if they would have lost both games, then I think the level of concern would be really high about whether or not they were going to have enough to to hold on to that last playoff spot. I think they will. Um, again, I still don't rule out a first round series win, but again, I just don't think they match up very well against a team like Charlotte. Um, but
Providence too.
hockey,
They ain't gonna
yeah,
beat they ain't gonna beat Providence. They ain't gonna beat Scranton Wilkes-Barre in a playoff series, and they sure ain't gonna beat Charlotte in a playoff series either.
yeah, hockey's a funny sport. Sometimes you get hot, but you would like to see lots of times that's more or less how a team's playing going into the playoffs.
Right.
And unless the Bears would look absolutely phenomenal in these last three games, I it just doesn't look like there's a path there.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what happens with the Hershey Bears tonight. They are in action up there in Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Then they got 2 games to wrap up the regular season. I believe both those games are at the Giant Center, right, to wrap up the regular season
Yes.
this
Yep.
weekend. So
Saturday afternoon. I'm sorry, Saturday night and Sunday afternoon. I think an early face-off too on Sunday, 3 o'clock.
yeah, not high expectations if the Hershey Bears get to those Calder Cup playoffs. Unfortunately, this year it's just being realistic with the Hershey Bears this season. Let's switch gears to the NBA. JT, you're gonna have to explain a lot of things here as we get into the playoff picture of the National Basketball Association because I don't understand what's going on with these play-in games. It's almost like the college basketball tournament. That's where the Sixers sit at the what are they, the 7th seed or the 8th seed? They're going to take on who are they taking on tonight? I don't even know who they're playing tonight in this play-in game thing. I don't even. Please explain the whole playoff thing first of all with the NBA and how this thing sets up as far as the playoffs are concerned with some of these play-in games and then who plays who and who where they go and that sort of thing here in this playoff bracket of the NBA.
So they take the 7 through 10 teams in each conference, the Eastern Conference and the West Conference, 7, 8, 9, 10. And in each conference, the team that finished seventh plays the team that finished eighth. One game.
Okay,
That's it. One game.
one game.
The higher
Loser goes
the
home.
No, no, no. Just well, are you going to let me explain it?
Oh man, there's still more. See, this is why I don't understand it.
Okay.
You got to
So
explain it. It's not necessary.
well, I'm trying to explain it. You keep
Go ahead.
talking.
Go ahead.
All right.
Let me hear it.
So, all right. So seventh plays eighth. So, like in the Western Conference, it will be or in the Eastern Conference, the Sixers play the Magic tonight. Okay.
Okay.
If the Sixers win, they're the 7th seed for the first round of the playoffs.
Okay.
If they lose, they fall into the 8th place game. In other words, if you're 7th or 8th, it's double elimination.
Okay.
So if they win tonight, they're definitely in the regular playoffs as the 7th seed, where they'll probably get bounced by the Celtics in the first round anyway. If they
Official
lose,
playoffs. Official
right,
playoffs.
if
Okay.
they lose tonight to the Magic, they will drop into a game to determine
Losers
the
bracket.
8th seed in the 8th seed.
Right.
And then the ninth place team plays the 10th place team. That happened last night. That was Charlotte beating Miami. Okay.
I did.
So
That was a close game last night.
right, it
I saw
went to
that one, yeah.
overtime. It went to
Yeah.
overtime. So Miami lost that game. They're done. Their history. Charlotte won. So that means Charlotte will play whoever loses tonight between the Sixers and the Magic, and whoever wins that game will be the 8th seed for the playoffs and will play the Pistons in the first round. You got it?
You need a break after explaining that, or want to get a drink or something? I mean,
I
that's
I
that's
don't
unbelievable.
it's
Why do you
I
make it
mean
so complicated? Why?
why do I make it complicated?
No, the NBA. Why
Oh,
they got to make
I
it
think
complicated?
I think it's absolutely stupid. I think it's
Yeah,
just
it sounds that
it's
way.
their way. It was their way of keeping more teams in the mix and more teams engaged, but nobody care. I don't think anybody cares about it. It's just a way to get more games on TV.
Yeah.
I you know, we'll
What do
see.
you what do you think happens with the Sixers here? Obviously, Embiid is out of the lineup. I'm not sure when he'll return. Nobody knows when he'll return. Probably not anytime soon here for a playoff run. But what's got to happen here for the Philadelphia 76ers to make a decent run if they do win tonight and get into the playoff picture?
They got to hope that Boston just completely falls apart and plays the worst series of their
Yeah.
life. And
That seems to be
somebody,
happening for the past 2-3 years that they played Boston, right? In the playoffs and kind of
it it
gotten
it
to
does
that
seem
point, and
like,
that's it.
yeah, it does seem like they've run into Boston quite a bit. Um, but you know, even without Embiid, I mean, fully healthy without Embiid, I think the Sixers can be competitive in some of the games against Boston,
Right.
but at the same time, I mean, Boston just they're well coached. All their guys are on the same page. They're completely healthy, and I mean, I 5 or 6 games maybe that series could go.
Yeah.
I would think the Sixers wouldn't get swept, but I could see them going out in 5.
Yeah, Sixers gonna need a lot of help. I mean, obviously from their bench. Their bench hasn't been very
Yeah,
consistent all season long there with Grimes, Edwards, and a couple other guys there. I mean, you need Oubre to have a stellar game. You need Paul George to kind of put his gas pedal down, and he's been good since he's coming back, but he hasn't been anything extraordinary. And even in the previous years with Paul George too, I mean, his playoff run is not all that great as far as numbers and everything else. But a lot of things got to happen with the Philadelphia 76ers to make a long-term run at this into playoffs.
yeah. They do have the type of roster that is capable of kind of going off.
Yeah.
In a game or two where they are certainly capable of raising some eyebrows. I just don't think that they're built to win a long series against a team like the Celtics
You were good in
or,
math
or the
class.
or, or the Pistons if they end up as the 8th seed.
You were good in math class, weren't you, in school? You were a good math guy.
Eh, here and
Numbers
there.
guy. You're a good
Yeah,
numbers guy. You have to
thank you.
explain in the postseason, and I can see that. I
Well,
wasn't.
it
I
stinks.
was
It
not.
stinks that I even have to explain that because I think it's a
Well, it's
stupid
yeah, it's
tournament.
terrible. Yeah, I
It's
don't.
it's 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 almost as stupid, not as much, but almost as
NBA Cup.
stupid. The NBA Cup, exactly.
Yep,
You'll
ridiculous.
never get me on board. Now, my that being said, my son and I will watch it together because it's something that we like to do together, and
Yeah,
we bond over it, that kind of thing. So I like it for that aspect of it, but in terms of getting excited about it, you know. Now here's a
yeah.
question for you. Here's something for you to ponder.
Okay,
Wh- What
I
what if
can't wait for
next
this.
what if next year what if next year the Sixers
Yes.
go on a mid-season run and they
Okay.
win the NBA Cup?
Okay.
Do you
You're
have
gonna
a
ask me. You're
parade?
gonna ask me if I'm buying merch, aren't you? You're
No.
gonna ask
Do you
me that.
have
No.
do they throw a parade?
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't even think Philadelphia is that dumb
Come
to do
on.
something that stupid.
Come
But
on. An
I
NBA
just
Cup
think it's
parade?
dumb.
You
You know,
wouldn't want an NBA Cup parade?
I was just thinking the Knicks won the NBA Cup, right?
Yes.
I got my Philadelphia 76ers shirt NBA Cup here from 2026 that I was going to give to you that I got down at the Salvation Army that they were going to ship overseas, but it somehow made its way to the Salvation Army. I was going to give that to you. Now I guess I'm not going to give it to you since you don't care about the NBA Cup, even
Let
if
me
it's
see
not
the
right.
let me see the shirt.
I don't have it.
Yeah, there's no such shirt.
It's it could be overseas somewhere. There could be
It
some
could
kids
be.
running around,
Yep,
playing soccer or basketball right now overseas
that's true.
that are
Yep,
wearing the Philadelphia
yep.
76ers NBA Cup champs. Yeah,
Going
I
going
don't.
against going against some kid wearing a 2022 Phillies World Series champions shirt.
There's hats going around. There is hats going around because I did purchase a. Now keep this in mind. Like I know you're. This is not hard to believe. On eBay, there was a 2022 World Series champs, or it might have no. It was the year they played the Astros. What year was that? That they
2022.
was that the year? Yeah, when they
Yeah,
played the Astros in the World Series, and I did purchase one off of
of course you
eBay, but
did.
I
Yeah,
had it sitting here, and I was like, I'm gonna wear that to like cut grass. I'm gonna do things outside with this hat on. Never wore it. I ended up selling it for like some dude bought it for like $50, more than what I paid.
of
More
course
than
you
what I
bought
paid
one.
for it.
Yeah,
It's
of course you did.
but
Money's no object for you, so of course
yeah.
you would go on and buy
Oh,
one.
it's an object. It's an object, but certain things like that, man, that rare finds, it's all about the rare finds at like Salvation Army or on eBay. But all right, we got some sports to watch here as we go along in this week. Of course, NHL playoff hockey coming this weekend. We were certainly excited for that. The Phils hopefully can rebound here and get back to playing some good consistent baseball, and we can't wait for this Flyers of course Penguins series in the NHL. We'll see what happens with the Philadelphia 76ers in this play-in game tonight, because I obviously don't understand it. So until next time, JT, this has been another fun episode of Broad Street and Beyond. Make sure you, of course, like us, subscribe over on YouTube, and check us out, of course, on the Radio Novo app, and also, of course, on the Seven Mountains Media Sports website. We would absolutely appreciate it, as we love doing this, of course, each and every single week for you when we find the time. But until next week, JT, this has been fun, man.
Yeah, it has been fun. We'll look to do it again next week, and like you said earlier, we'll look to get our buddy Noah White on early next week. Maybe talk some NBA draft. We're still going to have Mike Gross on to talk some Penn State football coming out of the end of spring practice, and and then we'll have our summer chat that we talked about with the cast of Stranger Things, and then we'll get rolling from there.
Yeah, something about that. Yeah, we'll try that. We're going to catch up again, too, with Jake Starr with the Reading Fighting Phils. If the Bears do make a significant playoff run, we'll try and get Zach Fish here on the podcast, but I'm not sure that's going to happen here with the Hershey Bears, but we'll try to see what we can come up with on the next episode of Broad Street and Beyond. Until next time, enjoy the sports. Thank you, JT.
See you, fellas.